Welcome to another edition of Citizen Watch here on this Thursday evening. For coming to you live from downtown Merced, or actually not live to tape, same day tape anyway. We are joined in the studio today by Mr. Sam Rangel. Sam is a community activist here in the Merced area, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the issues that we're facing here as a city, maybe some of the issues in regards to the request for youth funds from the city council members and how that may best be spent, and made a priority, hopefully. As always, the Velvet Sledgehammer, Mr. Robert Tomasetti, is in the house, diligently reading his newspaper. Casey Steed went back to Oklahoma to witness his son's graduation.
Witness. What a bad word, witness.
Went back to observe,
view,
participate
visit,
in.
Well, I don't know about participate.
I already got a nickname for him, the Machete Tomasetti.
Anyways, hey, did you guys see Mark Hendrickson's in the newspaper twice?
Woo. About what? Mark Hendrickson, the economic development
the man.
Guru guy. From
well, here's what's funny, real quick, before we get into this. Let me get this out of the way. This is in today's Sunstar. Airline offers relay to Yosemite National Park. So I'm thinking, where is there? Now, I go golf there. I visit there quite frequently. There is not a airport in Yosemite. So I look at Sam and I go, where's there an airport in Yosemite? Sam goes, I don't, and then Steve goes, I think it's a bus. Sure enough, here it is. A bus waits at the former Air Force Base to take tourists to Yosemite. Mark Hendrickson said it's so good and fantastic, and it represents another positive step in terms of utilization of Kessler Airport.
Have you done any more research on that new building opening up in Patterson?
Nobody's talking. It's kind of a weird situation. All I know is I got $10 bet. I got two $5 bets, one with Casey, that it's not Walmart. And if it is Walmart, I'm going to tell you, the sledgehammer is going to be very sledgy.
Yeah. And
my friends in public office, if it is Walmart, not going to like me.
Yeah, I've already kind of put myself out there myself.
Well, the situation to me is, I don't think it's Walmart, because I think Walmart's the company. And Sam, tell me. I mean, it's psychological. And Yosemite, Walmart's not the kind of company to hide. Walmart says it's us.
Right.
Okay,
we're coming.
We're coming. Here we come. Stop us if you can. And Casey's attitude is, as well, with all of the misgivings that they had with Merced County, they probably went, clandestinely over to Patterson. And I think you would have heard something if it was Walmart, truly Walmart. I might be wrong. If I am, I lose $10, but I don't think it's Walmart. I'm hoping it's not Walmart.
Have you asked around at all?
I'll tell you the guy who would tell me, Frank Quintero, and I couldn't find him yesterday.
Yeah.
And Frank will tell you. Frank, I tell you, you want to know anything with the city, you go to Frank Quintero and say, Frank, what's going on? And Frank will say, well, I'm not at liberty to say. And then I'd say, Frank told me, but he told me I couldn't tell anybody.
Or he'll say nothing.
Or he'll say, well, no, if he doesn't know. But the other thing that I thought was really funny was Mark Hendrickson's in the other side of the paper. Rescue Mission stands by the CEO. Now, here's a CEO that lies. Here's a CEO that hides money, okay, and does everything wrong, I think, at a rescue mission. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the rescue mission is a necessity in Merced. But this gentleman is lied in all this, and Mark Hendrickson goes out and says, I support the ideals of the organization to help the less fortunate. I agree with Mark. And it says, I hope they find success in the future and grow from this. I agree with Mark. But what I don't agree with Mark, actually he doesn't say it here, is what is his viewpoint about Bruce Metcalf, the CEO, hiding turkeys to lie to the folks to get more donations. And then when you're over your donations, you take turkeys that were donated to you, and then you hijack them to another church up the road and sell them for $5 a piece. That, to me...
Do we know that happened for a fact?
It says it here. He says right here, Bruce Metcalf didn't deny the allegations during an interview with the Sunstar.
So he's collecting turkeys, and then he's selling them for $5 a pop?
He had turkeys. He wanted more. So he told the kids to hide the turkeys. They hid them in another icebox. Then they opened up and showed one turkey. There were turkeys at Richwood Meat. There were turkeys and other thing. And then I heard that he had sold some of these excess turkeys for $5 to a church in Atwater.
And he did not deny that? Or
So here he said, Bruce Metcalf didn't deny the allegations during an interview with the Merced Sunstar last week, but he said he didn't disclose the exact number of turkeys because some would be used in food baskets before they could be cooked for the annual Thanksgiving dinner.
What about him selling the turkeys for $5 a pop? Where does that come in?
It was reported. I mean, what do I got to go look back?
Well, that's kind of the crux of the issue for me. And if he's collecting donations and then pocketing and making a profit on it.
He's not. Well, let's get this right. I'm sure Bruce Metcalf is not pocketing anything. I think what he's doing...
Where are those $5 a pop going?
Probably to run the rescue mission.
How do we know that?
Well, I'll tell you, if he took it himself, I'm sure the rescue mission wouldn't stand by their CEO.
But how are you? I mean, how are you going to prove what he did with it?
Well, you can't, and
exactly.
I'm going to be very honest.
He could have pocketed it. He could have donated
but he did not deny the allegations.
Yeah. Well, again, an organization is only as good as the men and women running it.
Well, let's ask Sam. Sam, what do you think about it?
I think there's more to that story than meets the eye. I mean, he could possibly, have sold them to the church in Atwater, and maybe they bought a bulk number, so therefore he could have a receipt as a charitable donation from that church, saying we're going to buy these.
Why charge them if you got them donated to you? Why charge the church at all?
Maybe the church offered to buy them.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest.
And who's going to turn down free money?
And come on,
when you're running a struggling mission.
He's running a business. Okay, so the gentleman's there trying to get the more bang for his buck. Okay, what I have a problem is that he's hiding turkeys. Okay,
right.
To mislead me into giving him money for more turkeys that he doesn't necessarily need. What I would have rather have done is said, hey, look, you want my $20 in turkey money? How about this? Do you need yams? I'll go out to Garcia Brothers or Doriva, and I'll go get you 2 or 3 boxes donated of yams for the $20. I mean, is that what you would like? And we've done this before. At the Italo, ICF wanted to have yams and ham and yams, and I went and I had a friend of mine, Zambelli, who knows somebody at one of the grocers, and we bought a box for $10, which was at a discount, and I donated it to the ICF. That kind of stuff I can see. You're in a barter system. Sam knows. Sam understands. You don't, because you live with your mother.
Whatever. Well, this kind of juxtaposes into other issues that we're going to talk about today. You read the newspaper, and certainly an article is open to interpretation and kind of a perspective when you read an article. And one of the issues that Sam was having is what you're seeing a lot, what you've been seeing a lot here recently in the newspaper is about this new aggressive pursuit, confrontation, if you will, of our gang issue. And the stories that we've been reading in the newspaper. And you kind of have, Sam, a different perspective.
Can you guys do me a favor?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not a gangbanger. I've never been one.
Yeah.
The way our gang works is we wear suits and ties. Okay. You see it in the TV a lot.
Yeah, those are the worst gangs in the country. And they live on Wall Street.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about living in Chicago.
Well, that's second worst.
Well, but my point is I can Sam, and I've never met Sam, and I hear great stories about Sam. Can Sam, maybe to the listeners who do not know who Sam Rangel is, like I do not, if he can tell us a little bit of what you guys are going into, because I'm at a loss when you say...
Well, maybe, Sam, you want to give a little background on yourself? I mean, I know Sam. Sam's been on KYOS, more than once.
Does he visit you at your mom's house?
No.
No, I do not. But, maybe one day.
Yeah, I know.
But you want to give them maybe a little background on who you are, where you've come from, and that maybe might put into context your perspective a little bit more.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
I think it goes into what you're asking him. I don't even know.
Oh, it definitely will.
Yeah.
You're going to be very interested in this. Trust me.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, pretty much I was born and raised here in Merced, California. I've never actually left Merced, unfortunately, but I don't plan on leaving Merced anytime soon. And so where I come from is the perspective of someone who's been raised in this gang culture for the better part of his life. And, I just kind of bring a unique perspective into understanding and to actually educating people out there that don't understand this culture, and there's a big, what I call a cultural prejudice out there to the kids growing up in this lifestyle. I've heard many people say that it's not a lifestyle. As a matter of fact, they call us degenerates. And let's see, the latest was by Mr. Larry Morris on TV calling cockroaches, And so, in fact, I'm here to basically tell the truth about everything that's going on and to put it out there and hopefully create a better understanding. I've served this community for 13 years. Of community service, out there pounding the streets, starting nonprofits, and doing what I do best, and that's talking to the people face to face. So I feel like I've earned a voice within this community, and so that's what I'm trying to do today is to try to bring some clarity to the situation and some just actual true facts. And I pretty much got a lot of attention because after these raids, these most recent raids, and this most recent crackdown, it reminded me of a crackdown that kind of happened about 5 years ago. And during that crackdown, I wrote a book called The Theory of Personality Within the Gang System. And they asked me, they said, hey, Sam, what do you think about this latest crackdown on gangs in Merced, and will it work? And my response was at the time is using intolerant approaches and causing gangs to absorb big hits will force the gang leadership to actually rush kids through what I call gang boot camp, who are more eager and more violent. So thus, I don't think this big hits that these gangs are absorbing is going to make our streets safer. As a matter of fact, it's going to make it more dangerous.
Why?
For the simple reason is if you remove the adult leadership that kind of keep these more violent and more dangerous kids in check, if you take them off the street, now we're being run by a bunch of rookies that really don't have no experience. I mean, if you put
army,
like basically like our army, like
lose all the generals, you got the foot soldiers that don't know really what they're doing. I get that.
Exactly. A football team, you put a bunch of rookies, there's going to be mass casualties and mass injuries. And on the same note, the other team's probably going to suffer injuries because they don't know how to tackle right, they don't know how to do things right. So in actuality, is what I said is you'll see an increase in violence. And since in 5 years, has any crackdown decreased violence here in Merced? Absolutely not.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Okay, I'm non-tolerant to gangs, but here's what I notice. I live in the corner of Martin Luther King 21st. Everybody looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, you live in gang heaven." I couldn't tell you a gangbanger if they came in. Honestly, I look at tattoos. Everybody's got tattoos. Even your nanny Janice has tattoos, up her neck, down her arm, whatever. Okay, so that doesn't distinguish. Okay, I don't look at it but to be a race thing. So if I see a tattooed Hispanic, I'm thinking, you're normal. Okay, so I don't see it. What I was raised is...
You're a great person then.
No, I really don't. And what I do
probably
is...
1% of the majority.
Well, what I do is I treat everybody the same.
Right, and everyone should do that.
If there's an old lady that's coming past, and I'll tell you the great story. The length of my house runs on Martin Luther King, and I have sprinklers. And I'll tell you what I hate is I have eczema, and when I get wet or damp, I just start itching. And so I look at these guys, they're walking down the street, and I go, "Hey, guys," and they stop. And they look at me like, "Huh?" And I go, "Hey," I said, "just wait right here for a second. Let me turn off the sprinklers. If I'm out there mowing my lawns and stuff, let me turn off sprinklers. When you get to my truck, when you get to the end of the property, just yell and I'll turn it back on. That way you guys don't have to get wet." And they look at me like they're dumbfounded. And I'm like, isn't that just the common sense courtesy to do? Right. And so my friends are like, so I never have a problem. I'll get a little gang sign on my fence and I'll paint it. Okay, I don't get robbed. I don't get vandaled or abused. I look at everybody who walks down the street. I'm walking, I'm hedging my hedges, eye contact. "How you guys doing today? Sorry I'm in your way." And they're like, "Hey man, no problem." They go around it.
Right.
I don't see a problem.
It's because you approach the culture with an open mind. Most people approach the gang culture with what I call culture shock. They lack understanding of what this culture is all about. And so when you approach the culture with an acceptance, it's easier to assimilate them, and to show them that you're willing to accept them and willing to talk to them, willing to treat them as human beings and not monsters or domestic terrorists is like what they like to call them.
But I'll be very honest with you. I don't tolerate their lifestyle. Okay, I shouldn't say that.
Tolerate their crime.
Casey, the lifestyle. Because the lifestyle to me leads to the crime.
They're intermixed, but there's a difference between a lifestyle and a crime.
Right.
Well, here's the thing that I don't like. I don't like the droopy drawer thing where they got to hold up with one hand. I look at that and I go, really? That's got to be inclusive.
That's not exclusive.
Right. And here's where I like to educate the community.
Please do.
In that, okay, when I talk about cultural prejudice, we're talking about gangs are a culture. They are a subculture within our society that have been around for 100 or more years. Okay, but we are the only culture that is being culturally prejudiced against. Because if you look at our culture, you see a kid that can get validated at age 11, 12, 13 years old, wearing saggy pants, wearing a color. He doesn't know growing up what he is. He's just looking at what mom and dad's wearing. And therefore they validate him and they call him a gang member because of what he's wearing. And this kid's like, what are you talking about? He doesn't know. He's just mimicking what he sees mom, dad, uncles and wearing. Now, here again, you get validated. Now you're susceptible to being locked up in prison because of what you're wearing. And again, I say we're being culturally prejudiced because there's other subcultures that are able to wear their identifiers. Let's take a cowboy. A cowboy can wear Wranglers, he can wear boots, he can wear belt buckles and a hat. And is he validated or is he somehow put up for enhancements because he wears what identifies him?
And you're absolutely correct there. But then somebody might go on the other side, Sam, and say, yeah, but a cowboy, okay, is not doesn't run counter to what the law says. A cowboy goes out there and it's a thing. I'm a cowboy. I got dip, skull, whatever.
But they commit crime. They fight. They drink.
But
they smuggle drugs. But they do the same thing.
They can. But the point of the matter is what I look at it as a gang. That is their number one thing. I'm an 11-year-old kid. In order for you to be validated, see that old lady? Go shoot her in the head. You're part of the group. Cowboys don't do that.
Okay. Now here's the difference.
Go ahead.
The kids will react out of hate and discrimination. Okay, like for instance, take this whole. You say that, and I can see that because on my street corner, when the kids come past and I try to talk to them, they look down, and then after a couple of minutes of them talking to you, and they realize, like I had some that walked past, I'm digging a sprinkler head. I literally
look at it. Well, because I'm. To believe it or not, I'm average Joe. Okay, you have the understanding of what's going on.
Exactly.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pull out with my understanding, and maybe the viewers can understand, or the listeners, viewers. Like for example, you said you had an upbringing in this culture. How did that happen?
It happened because of my parents.
Yep.
Please explain.
Well, let's take a quick break here. We got to take our first commercial break, but when we come back, we'll let Sam kind of explain kind of his genesis into where he's arrived at today. We'll talk about that built-in discrimination that people feel sometimes, and I can tell you this:
is it fear or is it discrimination?
It could be fear, but it's nobody feels comfortable being judged. When someone looks at you and you feel like you're being judged.
Everybody.
Most hate groups are formed out of discrimination.
Absolutely. And we'll continue down that road. You're listening to the Citizen Watch on this Thursday evening. Thanks for being here. We are joined in studio by Mr. Sam Rangel. And as always, Machete Tomasetti.
I'm not Machete. See, I'm being discriminated against. See, that's subculture.
We'll be right back.
I'm Hispanic. I got to give you a nickname.
Welcome back to Citizen Watch.
We have the Sam Rangel story.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about an issue that's facing our community as we
middle-aged middle-class white boy has no clue about the street gangs in California.
One of the points that I think Sam's made in the first segment is when someone says the word gang, immediately you have a stereotype of the picture in your head. But there's other gangs too. He referred to the cowboy gang. But what about like the Wall Street gang or the government gang? I mean, there's gangs everywhere.
Well, here's the thing that I always have a problem with. Is when you attach the word mafia to it. Now, that maybe it's because I'm Italian, okay, but they say the Mexican mafia, the Russian mafia, Okay, it's absurd. The mafia is an Italian name meaning people from a Sicilian descent.
Like a real Italian, right?
No, Mr. You know what? Italian. Why don't you learn to talk?
La Cosa Nostra.
No, it's not La Cosa. You're such a knuckle.
Right.
Anyways, what I'm saying, Sam, it's like you wouldn't say it's a Chinese taco.
Right.
Okay. So I say organized crime. I don't even use gang because gang is true. Baseball. We had a baseball group of guys that used to go play softball. We were a gang. We were a group. I understand that. What I'm talking about is organized crime. I'm talking about the street crime, the gangs that Serrano, Norteño, this Mexican mafia, black guerrillas, whatever they are.
And in this instance, you're talking about a crime such as maybe like a strong-arm robbery versus a crime of stealing billions of dollars from the taxpayers of this country at the government level. That again, that's where it gets a little bit frustrating. And I think one of the things
I don't disagree with you.
The hypocrisy.
It is the hypocrisy. Right. I'm dealing with Bank of America, folks. Tune in another story and you'll hear how I got arrested at Bank of America for losing my temper in the bank. Not arrested, I was detained. But we will tell that because that's exactly what you're saying, Steve. But I have Sam Rangel here, okay? And I hear people, now I'm telling you, my house there's never a problem with my house. And I hear people complain all the time and throw their hands up and say, gang, 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 and I don't understand it. And that's why with Sam being here, I wanted to go into, Sam said that the upbringing from his parents. How did his parents and his relationship with his parents introduce him to the gang? And then let's go one step further. How were you prejudiced to the point where you were become locked into the gang? And then how do you get out of the gang other than death?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's what I would like to know, and that's why he's here. And I'm like just chomping at the bit because this is fascinating.
Well, number one, it's like anything else. A person becomes a cop probably because someone in their family was a cop. A person becomes an entertainer because probably someone else was an entertainer. And it's no different. We all conditionally learned it's basic psychology. I was brought up in a gang environment. My father was active. My uncles were active. Everybody was active. So I didn't really have a choice. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know I was a gang member or I was part of this gang culture because to me it was normal everyday life.
Got it.
So when I'm growing up, my first seed of hate came from society. People think,
Why?
well, your parents planted hate. No, my parents planted love. I love my parents no different than an average middle class.
Can I ask you a question, Sam? When you're growing up in your family, again, your reality is your environment. So you grow up, this is the norm for you. Was your family engaging in criminal behavior?
If they did, I didn't know about it. Now, I do remember my father fighting a lot, but to a young kid like me, hey, my dad can kick your dad's ass. That was the thing. Right. You know, what kid didn't want to have that growing up?
That's exactly. I give you a great example. My dad's listening. He's probably going to kill me with this, but my dad, they used to have in Chicago, they were in car clubs, right? And when we were younger, I remember if somebody cut my dad off, he would stop the car. He would get out. He would take one of those baseball bats. Now, I'm not talking a big Louisville Slugger. I'm talking one of those little baseball bats that you get at the Cubs games and stuff like that. And he would knock on the window, and he and the guy would have a confrontation. And I remember thinking, Sam, I agree that my dad's a badass. Mm-hmm. My dad was all 5'8", and my dad was cool. And nobody can kick the shit out of my father. Nobody had a temper like my father. My dad was cool. My uncle was part of Hell's Angels in terms of a motorcycle gang. He was wiry, okay, Golden Gloves boxer, okay, because he was mean.
Right.
Okay, and nobody kicked my Uncle Frank's ass. But then when you get older and you realize what Uncle Frank was,
right,
you didn't say that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, that's
you don't know if criminal behavior was happening or not. All you knew is that was your dad. He was taking care of you, putting a roof over your head, food on the table.
Right. And not just that. I mean, I do remember, alcohol, some marijuana around and that. But, again, basic psychology. If you experience something positive when you're young, you're doomed to repeat that. You eat a piece of pizza.
Or even negative.
Yeah. Exactly. You eat a piece of pizza, you have a good experience, you're going to eat another slice of pizza. So basically, that's kind of like what happened in my instance. I had nothing but good experiences growing up in the gang life.
How did you get from that point
to being mean? Well, here it is.
The prejudice.
And this is what I'm talking about, the cultural prejudice. Okay. Sure. My first seed of hate came at Tenaya Junior High School in 6th grade. I went there. I had some baggy pants. I had a white T-shirt and I had a hairnet. All of a sudden, I'm a monster. I'm a terrorist. I'm a criminal. I'm a wannabe. I didn't understand what was going on.
How old were you? 6th grade? So you were what, 12?
Yeah, I was around 11 or 12. And so I didn't understand what all this hate was coming from. I grew up in a family of love. All of a sudden, I'm being hate. People were coming behind, slapping me on the neck, calling me Salvation Army Sam because I didn't have the best clothes. People were coming by, flicking my ear. They were spitting spit wads at me. And they were like, hey, you're wearing your mom's stocking on your head. Your mom's a hoe. Your mom's this. Your dad's this. And I'm like, where is all this hatred coming from? So what I did is I hid in the library for like a month. I was just like, man, I'm normal. No, I did not read, unfortunately. I should have read. But what I noticed is that after I was in there for 4 weeks, another kid that looked just like me came in. Then after another couple of weeks, another kid that looked just like me came in. And we bonded.
And they're all running from hate.
And so out of that discrimination, we said, you know what? We don't got to take this no more.
Right. But let me stop you right there. Is it hate or is it bullying?
Bullying and hate, discrimination. Sam. There was a culture shock there again. They didn't know how to.
When we played baseball, we did the same thing. Okay, I wasn't a great baseball player. Okay, and the bigger baseball players, would slap you in the back of the head. They'd make fun of you, and your job was to stand up to them. My dad's attitude was, if you take on a bully and you confront the bully 9 times out of 10 will back down.
Right.
And what happens is you have to take care of your own, and that was to me a right of growing up. And I understand exactly.
But it goes back to what you said earlier when you're standing in your hood with 18 of your buddies and a black dude walks through, you feel like you got strength in numbers.
Whoa, where are you going with that? That wasn't on the radio show.
But my point is it's that strength in numbers things. There's one of him and 100 of people flicking his ears. What really recourse does he have?
But the thing is when you're a non-athlete and you're trying to be an athlete, you've got 17, 12, 15 guys that play all the time in the neighborhood. They either play basketball. We didn't play soccer. There was basketball, football, or baseball, depending on the seasons, and then hockey. Okay? And then because you played hockey, you like to fight. And so guess what, Sam? You get people flick yours. Come on, fight. You want to fight? Let's fight me. And you had fights in school.
Right, exactly.
And you earned respect by fighting.
A one-on-one fight and a 1 versus 100 fight.
Well, that's what we had. We had one-on-one.
And at that point, really, does a child at 11 years old know how to deal with hate, discrimination, and prejudice? Probably not. Mm-hmm. So the only way we knew how to deal with it is to say, okay, there's 3 of us now. Let's go back out there at lunchtime and on breaks and recess, and let's establish who we are and let them know about our culture.
Yeah, we're not going to let them push.
Now everything that gang influential leaders in my hood all of a sudden becomes true. all of the stereotypes, all of the cultural prejudice that was preached to me growing up. They don't treat you right. You gotta stick with us. We're gonna protect you because they're gonna hate on you. They're gonna beat you up. They're gonna criminalize you. All of a sudden, that all became very true to me.
Okay.
And when they say them, who are they talking about?
Establishment.
Yeah, they're talking about any
Sure, anybody who looks bad. You look at him wrong. What you
I
staring
want to
at.
say any legal establishment or any educational establishment that appears to be legal. You're brought up to really not like that establishment because you see them being culturally prejudiced against your culture the whole time.
Because you make a good point. Is when I met about 4 years ago, I met Starbucks downtown, and there was a group called the Goths.
Yeah,
And these people,
good people.
they looked weird. They did some weird stuff. And I understand, because I'd look at them and think to myself, oh my God. And I can understand where, and what do they tell you? Everybody fears things they don't understand.
Right.
And if they fall into a situation they don't understand, fear is the first thing that comes out.
Exactly. Again,
So you got these prejudices.
When you went to school that first day in Tenaya, you went with an open mind. You were going there as any other 11-year-old.
I was excited. I'm in junior high school.
Right. And you were looking to meet new friends, meet new people,
Right.
kind of expand your horizon. And instead, you felt like you were being attacked because of the way you look.
Exactly.
Okay, so go ahead. So you get prejudiced. You got your three buddies. You decide we're going to establish who we are.
Exactly.
Okay, now how did you go from there to being deep? Is that part of it, of getting...
Right from then, I had uncles who were already very active here in Merced, and it was just easy now to fall right into the psychological lifestyle that was, this is our cause, this is why you got to stand up for our cause. And it was easy to get trapped. But it wasn't because I grew up saying I want to be the baddest gang member in the world. It was because out of discrimination and hate, I defending my culture. I'm being wrongfully accused because you don't understand where I come from, right? It's just like if we go to some parts of South America, people still eat human beings. And if you go up and tell that person you can't, it's disgusting to us, and we think they should all probably be destroyed.
That's where the
and
machete
abolished.
comes from.
You know what I'm saying? No. So what I'm saying is, you go there and you try to tell them not to eat a human being. You try to change them and tell them what they're doing is absolutely disgusting and it's not religious. And then they're going to turn around and probably behead you and have you for lunch.
No, okay. So now you're running with a gang.
Right.
And you find yourself in trouble. Okay, legally. Where did you decide, what was the epiphany that said, Sam, you need to change? What was that?
I think ultimately the lifestyle does cost too much. And ultimately you do begin to understand and you do become to be educated on what you're really involved in. And then you have to make a choice, because I do believe that kids will reach a certain age that it is their responsibility to get out. Otherwise, they will start experiencing cost. Up until a certain point, I didn't experience, any loss or any cost. And then it cost me my children. Living the lifestyle cost me my children. That was pretty much the wake-up call for me.
When you say cost, what do you mean? Did they pass on?
No, they took my kids.
Okay.
I could no longer.
Do you know who they are now? I mean,
Yes.
as an adult. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
And so I could no longer function as a father. And actually, because I lost my kids, I began to have a serious drug addiction. I became homeless for 2 years. My story is very well documented on the streets. I know you don't know it, but I
find it fascinating just talking to you. Go ahead.
I became homeless. And at that point,
Is this all in that book that you wrote?
yes, at that point, I no longer.
Can I get a copy of it?
Sure.
Can you sign it for me?
Sure.
Love it. Go ahead.
At that point, I no longer even became valuable to a gang.
Okay, well, let me ask you a personal question.
Because you couldn't.
Yeah, what use was I? I was a drug addict.
No, and I understand that, and that's the pitfalls, and those are the mistakes we make, and you've overcome them. God bless you. But the thing that I question is, I always wondered is the girls. Okay, you got a guy over here that you're popping kids out with. Not even. You're popping kids out with. You know this guy's a criminal. You know this guy's a gangbanger. You know that this is going to lead you to a self-destructive. Why? Is it the same way?
No, it's different. As a matter of fact, she wasn't going to make it here, but I was going to bring I was going to bring my wife, who pretty much tells it from the girl's perspective, and then she'll blow your mind one day. We have to come in here as a couple and talk about how she was used by the gang and how she was involved. And a lot of the girls is very different from the guys, and I actually think the women gang members are probably a lot more dangerous than the guys.
Is that right?
So, again, that'll have to be for another segment, but I think it's very interesting because it's one that's very rarely tapped into is from the girl's perspective.
Yeah, it very rarely.
And I'm not going to speak on behalf of the women.
Right.
Okay, so you go from this prejudiceness, you lose your kids, you become homeless. Now, where did it come to say, hey, what the heck, I need to change this? Where did that? When and how? And who helped you?
It was 4 years after my kids got taken from me. I woke up in McNamara Park after sleeping in the bathroom overnight, and it was the day after Father's Day, and this article from the Sun Star appeared, and it said Bishop, I'm gonna say his name, and I know he won't mind, Bishop Dwight Amy raised his kids like his own, and they were my kids. And
Wow.
so at that point on the paper, I just like really just broke down. I mean, you're talking, I was an emotional wreck.
Well, you're looking at it, he's raising my kids. Those are my
Right.
kids, not his.
Right. And so that was kind of like the instrumental, pivotal point that said, you know what, it's time to do something. My kids are growing up. I actually reached out to Dwight and, asked him if he can give me a hand, and he pretty much did. He was pretty much instrumental in helping me.
Now, who is it? Bishop Dwight Amy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, where's he at?
He's here in Merced. He was
Well,
actually
good
a
for you,
former
Bishop
member of the
Amy.
city council. And so that was kind of like the springboard. I went to school, and then, believe it or not, God is what ultimately healed me and ultimately opened my eyes. When I started learning about conditional learning and cultural differences and cultural shock, I said, man, this is not my fault. This is something I saw growing up that I was doomed to repeat.
But you said there's a point in time,
Exactly.
okay, when you, as a young adult, make the cognitive choice. So I'm going to be very honest with you. What I get annoyed at is people say, hey, it's not my fault. My daddy didn't hide me enough. We didn't have Easter eggs for... Oh, the reason I did this is because of this. And I'm going to tell you, I'm bipolar. And it annoys me that somebody at Merced almond hulling steals $1.2 million and says, well, please forgive me because I'm bipolar. And I'm
Right.
like, what? You were responsible.
Now, cognitive,
Yeah.
is it measured by your actual age?
No.
Or the age you act? Let's talk about that. You say cognitive. I was 21 years old, but cognitively, I was probably the age 12.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You don't mature.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Because you don't have those influences.
Exactly.
Well, we're going to take another break here, guys.
When we come back, can we do this, Sam? Can you tell us about how you started some nonprofits? And then what I would like to do is I'd like to find out from you what we can do as a society, Merced, to get these kids out.
Because I definitely want to give another example of how prejudice and cultural
Sure.
prejudice
Please do.
can
We'll start the next
increase the
segment with that.
violence
Absolutely.
here in Merced.
Well, let's do that.
And I'd also like to tap your expertise on how do we open the lines of communications. And
Yes.
that's the key.
And the money.
And this is what I'm
We're spending money on feel-good stuff, and that's my whole thing. That's why I loved that Pedrozo's and them were very instrumental in McNamara Park, keeping that pool open, because I feel that and we call it the south side of Merced, gets something. It's not always everything up here on the
Right.
north side for the rich kids. Oh, now they got, they're pole vaulting nets. I want to know.
You're being prejudiced when you call people rich kids.
You know what?
You didn't get hugged enough from your father when you were
Oh,
young.
I love my dad. Are you nuts? Give me a break.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the third and final segment of Citizen Watch here.
You know what I
on
like
this
about you
Thursday
bringing us
evening.
back?
What's up?
There's no lava lamp comment. There's no fuzzy.
We have a
dice.
video voice.
Enough people have been in here now to know that that's not the case.
That's not the case. This place is, it's nice. I like.
We're
little,
lucky when everything's working. Anyway, Sam, we're joined in studio today by Mr. Sam Rangel. He's a local community activist, obviously.
An author. I didn't find that out.
Machete Tomasetti.
It's not Machete Tomasetti.
Dude, I think that's going to stick.
No, it's
I'm
not.
loving that.
If it sticks, Colvard, you're going to live with your mother forever.
Anyway, Mr. Rangel, why don't you go ahead and tell us some of the things that you've been seeing recently that are kind of concerning to you?
Well, I think the big one is the whole headline of this massive drug sting that they did for 6 months, investigating it and arresting 41 people, and then going on TV and just basically, to me, in my perspective, I call it just a big lie. Then somehow this is supposed to make our streets safer, and the reason why I call it the big lie is because again, I go back to, if you remove 41 people who are active older leaders within the ranks, then now you force us to you force us to be left in the hands of kids who are more violent and more eager to prove themselves. And it holds true. 2 days after one day after that bus, I put the blog on Facebook about how I disagreed with it. And the day after that, 2 kids were stabbed. So again, and I went back on there and I put, okay, so now it begins. I said it 5 years ago and I said it again. I just want the public to be aware and not to grow complacent that somehow our streets are going to be safer. They are absolutely not going to be safer. As a matter of fact, they talk about, we confiscated 70 pounds of meth. Mr. Morris said, I slammed the door on a major drug operation. He used the words like cockroaches and the community will be safer. You slammed the door on a major operation? 70 pounds of meth? I know, and they always try to fool us by saying, well, the street value of it is over $1 million. The street value never hit the street, so therefore it's not going to have a street value. You know what? 70 pounds of meth is probably causing that cartel or whoever brought that in. It's probably costing them $1,000. $1,000 a pound, really. So you're really only taking $70,000 off the streets. But how much did it cost us for the 6 months investigation to have joint task force? How much did it cost us? Be transparent with that, how much it's truly costing us. How much is it going to cost America and the public to house 41 people now a year at $50,000 a year? How much are we really going to pay? Is this helping our economy? Is this really helping our community? That's what I'm trying to say. And not only that, you fan the flames by calling us cockroaches. Now you make it easier for a gang recruiter to go and tell the kid, hey, look, you see the hate they have for us? You see the cultural prejudice I've been telling you about? You gonna let them call us cockroaches like that? Now a kid on the fence of joining the cause has now been tipped to join the cause because of them inflammatory remarks that these people are making. And so that's what I'm here to say, is that in actuality, all you really did was take drugs off the street.
I think that's the goal. The goal is to take drugs off the street. But see, here's the way I look at it.
And really, that 70 pounds was probably a diversion for the 700 pounds that are coming into California in the first place.
Here's the thing to me. I disagree with some things you said. And here's what I disagreed with. I think Larry Morris looks at it as, it may only been $1,000 worth of stuff, Sam, but you know what? If it was allowed on the street at $7 million or whatever the amount he said, that's a lot of money that a gang has lost, income, revenue. Look at it as a business. And that's less money that he has to percolate his little incubators. Okay, and so he looks at it that he made a dent. And that's my disagreement.
But that sledgehammer approach, you just disagree with that.
I disagree because it's gang suppression, and we all know what suppression means. It means you make a dent, but what happens to a suppressed pillow? It comes back, and it comes back to its firmness. And here again,
down to its feathers.
So here again, we put 41 people in jail that are going to come out with more influence than ever.
Now, let me ask you this, though.
So, but what's the answer to that?
That's what I was just going to ask.
How are you going, if you don't come at them with that sledgehammer approach, what's the other option?
The other option is take 10% of what we spent in the last 6 months for this joint task force and for all this bus and to have these people employed 24 hours a day and investigating. Take 10% of that budget and put it towards effective early intervention. I've been saying it all along. We can't even begin to reduce the violence here unless we have an effective,
I agree with.
Effective early intervention program in the 5th grade, starting in the 5th grade, because that's where they recruit. And let me tell you something. We had a system. We recruit them in the 5th grade, train them in the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and put them in work in the high school. That was the gang system. So if we're recruiting them at 5th grade level, where does intervention need to start? It needs to start at that level. But we have no programs in that level. So take 10% of what you spent, and I guarantee it'll be worth much more of an investment in the long run than removing 70
Sam,
pounds.
what does that intervention look like?
The intervention looks like people like Machete over here accepting kids within his neighborhood and not treating them any different, or not treating them with cultural prejudice, but understanding their culture and saying, hey, you know what, this kid's wearing baggy pants because we're a city that's impoverished and he's wearing his 14-year-old brother's pants. And
that could be a very well example.
And then also distinguish between the gang culture and hip-hop culture. Hip-hop culture also wear baggy clothes. It doesn't mean they're gang members or they're born in the gang lifestyle. And understand, a kid at 10, 11 years old, they want to be a fireman, a cop. They want to be the same things as every other kids. They don't know yet until they experience that cultural prejudice from society that now looks at them with that hatred look. Trust me, till this day, I've been out of that lifestyle for 17 years, but I still get looked with that same hate. When I walk into a convenience store, I walk into a clothing store, I get looked at different.
And that's ignorance, and you can't overcome ignorance.
Right.
You can't.
Wait a minute. Here's the point, guys, that you guys are forgetting. I own a convenience store. I own a little store on a corner. And I get 3 gangbangers that come in and try to shake me down. No disrespect, Sam. Sam walks in. I look and I go, here we go again. Now, I'm not going to sit there and And I think here's the problem is our neighborhoods. The neighborhoods need to be neighborhoods. And the problem is we don't have neighborhoods. California outlaws neighborhoods. Okay, you outlaw, look, I'm from an Italian area, and yes, there was racism. And we talked out about how I would stand there at Brown's Chicken with my 13 friends, and we would call out a black person and be rude because we had power in numbers. But that was our neighborhood. And we expected the same thing if we went in their neighborhood. But what you didn't have is you didn't have the violence and the killings that you do here. And I think that if we had neighborhoods, we would understand. Hey, Sam, what's up? Why? Because I know you.
Right.
This is what business does not do anymore. They don't know you. They don't recognize you. They're too busy counting profits, and you go to the bank. Girls are, one step up from fast food. They don't even know their customers. I go through a bank, West America, that knows me, and they're wonderful, and you could spend time. But example, you come into my store, if I don't know you're Sam Rangel, so why can't you just talk to them for a few minutes? Okay, now I know who you are, because I'm going to tell you, I wear red. I like red hats. I like red shoes. Okay, am I afraid of being shot at? No. And what I don't like is I don't like how the modern culture tries to make it sound like if you're walking down the street minding your business, you're going to get killed. Fear sells so that the police departments can sell fear and they can make money.
And I guess the problem for me is, where are we putting our money?
Yes.
We're putting our money, so far it seems like the majority of our money is going towards suppression, is going towards...
Because that's how they get paid.
Right, exactly. And my thing is that I think we have our priorities switched here. I think the earlier we intervene and create programs in that arena, we'll see a trickle-down effect and how it will reduce crime and make our streets safer. I think, again, there's so much talk about youth activities and youth investment. I don't think we need to start new programs. I don't think we need to invest $250,000 into a new program. I think that we need to fully equip the programs that are working right now in Merced. You got the Boys and Girls Club that can't stay open all the hours or on weekends because they're not fully funded. Take that $250,000 and fund them. You got the Mentoring Odd Jobs organization that already have odd jobs for the kids. Fully fund that program. Fully fund the programs that are already working with 10% of what you spent for 6 months. Or go and, we have this whole misconception that our kids so much want jobs. I guarantee if you go stand in front of Merced High School right now and ask every kid, what would you want? A job or something to do? 80% of the kids are going to say something to do here in Merced. Take 10%. If you can't invest it into the Boys and Girls Club or other programs that are working, take that 10% and build an amusement park or build a water park here so that our kids can have something to do.
But the schools do offer after-school ventures from 3 to 6, and it's been phenomenal. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about Vinny Scambray that did right was that. The problem that I have is I believe that, yes, you need to go after those, as they call them, alligators, okay, that got the 70 pounds. But I agree with you. Instead of MCOE pandering for $250,000 so they can give another one of their buddies a pay raise and all that, why don't we take the $250,000 into, like you said, why don't they take people like yourself and people who were in a gang that have found the Lord or whatever they found to get out and say, look, this is what we're looking for. Okay, this is what you're looking for. See that doodle right there? Stop that. Fifth grade. See that doodle on top of the thing?
Right.
That's the guy you need
I will
to see.
say this. Someone telling a fifth grader to stop that doodle or to stop this.
No. You're not telling them to stop it. You identify already, like Sam said. If they're over there in the fifth grade, they're recruiting, then the fifth grade is where the money needs to go. So then I look and I say, hey, he's doodling. He's susceptible. Let's talk to him. Well, let's get him to play baseball.
I was going to make my point.
Did you live with your mother?
My point is that if there is someone that's teetering on that gang lifestyle, the advice that they receive is going to carry much more weight coming from someone like Sam.
Yes.
Than a resource teacher that just graduated from college.
Exactly. That's what I said.
From the suburbs.
Actually, I would disagree with that in a little bit.
Really?
Because of the way our gang culture is, a lot of gang parents will accept advice from me because they're older, they're from the next year. But this next generation are more violent, are more eager. Someone like me, they might not accept. What's more effective, what I've found, what's more effective is someone like Mr. Tomasetti here accepting them. When
don't come to my street corner, guys. I only have so much food.
I tell you what,
that's interesting.
The first time I got invited to the inauguration of the chancellor at UC, I went in there, I was so afraid of not being accepted. Right. And most kids join gangs because they're not accepted or for a sense of family. So I was so afraid. And when I went to that, the person that took me to that inauguration little dinner made me feel so comfortable. you know, and I got more out of that, of being accepted by someone who I thought was better than me, than being accepted by my gang. Or being accepted by my culture, you know,
I can see that.
and
Reverse.
So that had more power. So if someone like Steve goes in there, a radio announcer, and says, "Hey, little homie, what's up, man? I'm here to talk to you," and you accept them, that has way more. You know, Mayor
We're being
Thurston.
recruited.
You know, I'm gonna give it up to Mayor Thurston here, because Mayor Thurston has accepted guys from our Mojo program who are at risk to do work for him. And they talk about that more than anything, how awesome the mayor was, that he just treated them like youth are supposed to be treated. And to me, that carries a massive amount of weight, you know. And don't get me wrong, I respect all of our officials, all of our gang task force. They all have a job to do, but don't mislead our community and sell us that our streets are going to somehow be safer, when I know better. And I hope that you also have an understanding of that also, that I know better. And
You know,
hopefully
and
taught you
I-
something.
Deal with the inflammatory.
And I feel bad because I'm going to be very honest. I assimilate it with cockroaches, and let me explain. I have a problem with Chinese water beetles. They're not cockroaches, but Chinese water beetles at the house, right? They come from subterranean. You water your lawn, poop, here they come. You could kill the big ones, and the little ones just... And I think that's what you're saying, is the fact that now the leaders are inefficient, ineffective, and they're problems. What I mean is that, yes, I think it needs to be a two-pronged approach. I don't disagree with you on that. I just think that the olders, the OGs, the big dogs, they need to go down. And on the other hand, you need to come from behind with the little ones and say, guys, what are you doing? What are you doing?
And let me ask you a quick question too, Sam.
Wait. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? I understand why Larry said that, because I have a problem with that, and I've had Orkin come out and he said,
But at what expense? You're going to remove the only person this child has ever looked up to. It's like taking a father away from that kid. Now you left him dealing with more identity crisis and more issues than he's ever felt before.
Well, I think it's a complex issue.
Yeah, and that's why they become more violent. Is because now they don't have.
Wait. Okay, so here I am, Larry Morrison. I got 10 guys here. Okay, with 70 pounds of meth. What do I do? Take the meth and go. Okay, guys, now you can go home now. How would you?
No, I truly believe if you do the crime, you're going to do the time.
Okay.
But the fact is that you better have something in place for the kids they left behind.
Exactly. I see what you're saying. Okay.
And if you don't have nothing in place for the kids that got left behind, then now you're leaving them there to work out their own identity and their own
That's
rules.
why I was big on McNamara Park. I mean, the kids got nothing. What are they going to do? They're going to go hang on a street corner, go hang out at the thing, and then start doing little things, and it gets bigger.
And then just going about doing it in a right political way. I can
You
get
mean
it.
I think it's a
Political, respectable way. Let me use that term.
Yeah,
you know,
I think because the kids come past my corner all the time, and I'm always nice to them. I feel I'm entertaining. They probably think I'm a goof, but the situation is when they see me, they always have their head up. Hey, how you doing? And I don't have any problems. So something must be working.
right? Don't think you're going to make our streets safer by calling them cockroaches.
I think, and I agree. And what I'm saying, and maybe I'm being defensive to Larry because he has a tough job to do. Because I do think that some of these guys at the top
I have a tough job, and I don't call people names.
No, and I understand it, but I think what he's looking at is to understand that when you remove, you still got tons behind it. I would never call them cockroaches.
So then how is that making our streets safer?
Well,
that's
I
the
think-
question. That's the question I'm trying to get across, is that it
Well, it's
doesn't
tough.
make our streets safer. You removed 41 people, and we have 3,000 documented gang members. What kind of dent did you put in?
Yeah, but are they documented? See, that's the problem I have, Sam, because you and I talking the same thing. Are they documented gang members? Maybe the kid just, no disrespect, but that's mom and dad. My brother wore hand-me-downs. Thank God I was the top of the dog, the heap. I was the number
But
one
I think
son.
the point you're making, Sam, is if you are going to take these 41 individuals off the street, you're going to leave a vacuum.
Right.
Right.
And what are you going to do with
And
that
how do you
vacuum?
fill that void?
Exactly.
And if you're going to fill it with negativity, then that next generation is going to be negative.
Right, they're gonna be
Exactly.
even
And
hardened.
you're saying the best thing that we can do as a community is treat these young men and women with respect.
Treat them as
Shake their hands,
11-year-olds.
Look them in the eye.
Right.
Treat them as 12-year-old. What do you do to a 12-year-old kid?
Yeah, you can come very easily back out on television and say, you know what, we removed 41 dangerous people from Merced
member,
County.
whatever.
And, you know, and the reason why we did that is to give kids a chance to make some positive life decisions.
Remove role models that these children are following.
Exactly.
But see,
there's a different way you could state it to where you're not going to throw 30-year-old dried wood chips on a fire.
right. See, and that's the problem I have is because I think if you treat them as fifth graders, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
I love kids. I think like a kid. I'm a big kid. And I look at the kids that come past my house riding their bikes. Maybe they're scoping things out. I'm like, hey, why don't you do this? Like, hey, guys, how you doing? No big deal.
Guys, we're out of time. Sam, I know, like I said, you're a
have them back.
founding member. We will, absolutely.
Why don't we do it like on a
Mojo?
On a commute. Well, what I would suggest is
in my defense, Sam, and I don't think you'll deny this, I got in contact with you a few months back, and I said I'd like you to be part of this conversation on a steady basis. That was me. And you were just too busy, and I totally understand that. But this forum is open to you as often as you'd like to come in here because this perspective is very important. And you've been enlightening me today. When you told me that a citizen like Robert carries more weight with it.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Than someone like you that's been in the lifestyle. That's eye-opening to me.
Right, and here's the thing. Remember, kids are drawn to these lifestyle, looking for identity, looking for acceptance. And when they get that from the gang member or the adult gang leader, they're so loyal to that leader. And that's one, I'm going to tell you, that's one positive quality that comes from gang members. If you give them a chance, if you were to hire a kid that was living that gang lifestyle, he would be as loyal to you as because you gave him that acceptance and that belonging. I've rehabilitated numerous gang members that are still working at jobs where I've put in a word and they've been placed till this day. And the managers will call me and they say, Sam, that is the best worker I have.
To be rude, but is that a Hispanic thing?
What?
Because
we don't have time for that. I'm sorry, we got to cut this off. We're way over right now.
Well, let's go.
If you are a community member here and you're looking to hire someone, to give someone an opportunity like that,
how do they get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of Mojo?
They would get a hold of Mojo by contacting Rochelle Abril at area code 209-947. 8827.
That's 947-8827.
And that what that will afford is someone that's looking for an opportunity. They come to your house, mow your yard, paint your fence, whatever the case may be, any type of odd job.
Right. And the unique thing about the program, again, is that these kids are always supervised by an adult mentor who is with them.
Do I have to pay him?
Throughout the job. Of course you got to pay them.
Crap.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, brother.
Okay, let's go.
Anyway, you want to give that number one more time?
Sam, 947-8827. I know it.
Say it one more time.
947-8827, area code 209. And that's a Miss Abril?
Yes, Rochelle Abril.
Thank you, Sam. It's very enlightening. I'd love to have you back to talk to you further about it.
And like I said, it could be a double take. Me and my wife, you guys can really hear from the woman's perspective.
Absolutely.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
First of all, I want to say thank you to my moms. She always had a way to make the storm seem calm. Even when I went astray, I can still hear you pray. And I know it's because of you that I can stand here today. You always knew I'd find a way, and you never lost hope. Because you trained up your children in the way they should go. Even when the cash flow wasn't always enough, you taught me all I need is God, because the rest is just stuff. I know it must have been tough to watch your son being broken, robbing and stealing for the crack he was smoking. So this is just a token of my appreciation. I thank the Lord today for trusting you with this creation. To my pops, I don't care what they all might say. I know you still love the Lord and desire his ways. And I remember those days of watching you on the bass. And so to see the music ministry would soon take its place. Even when I shamed your face and disrespected your house, you held your arms wide open when I just wanted out. Isn't that what God's about? Unconditional love. So I'ma give back to you what I'm already blessed of. I hope you're proud of your son, like my father above, cause there is no substitute for unwavering love. And so I just gotta say thank God for my folks, and thank God for intercessors when he called you a hope. I just wanna say thank you for what you brought me through. I just wanna say thank you. And to my kids I wanna say thanks for forgiving me, even though I wasn't there like I was supposed to be. I was blind and could not see just all the suffering I was causing to your children. Lord, thanks for saving me. And it still amazes me that you brought restoration, but more importantly, there was seed where you placed them. And I'm so grateful for it, yet you still bless more. I got a job and a house while serving the Lord. And yes, I adore every little thing that's been given. The gifts I thought were dead, you restored to the living. Now my whole life is risen and I'm walking by faith. I even thank you for the ones that say it's all a mistake, that say my whole life is fake and then I'm out of his will. So I say please Lord forgive them, for I know how they feel. Let's keep it real. My whole life I blamed everyone else, when all I really had to do was just forgive myself. Guilt is bad for your health if you just leave it alone, and a little bit of leaven can become full grown. So I will enter his throne with thanksgiving and praise, and impart it to my kids for the rest of my days. I just wanna say To my church family, tell me where you at. You know I gotta thank you for always having my back when we were under attack. I know you got on your knees, and I knew that I was home when I was feeling that peace. And then you gave me the keys and said to run with your vision. Don't be afraid anymore. Today you conquered division, and so I made a decision that I'm so thankful for. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And when I fall on the floor, it's because of His touch. I never thought my pastor's day could love so much. You taught me life is a clutch. Sometimes you gotta just shift. And then the word of the prophet said to go share your gift, and it was just the right lift. Obey the word of the Lord, so I'ma let the whole world know what I'm thankful for. And yet there's so much more that a brother can share, but can we all agree as one to give thanks out there?
I just wanna say